until 9 tonight. I think we ought to get started. Before I turn it to Lori, remember from last week, if you're not speaking, please mute your device. But I hope that everyone came this week with a whole list of questions for our expert panel. You've had a week to think about those. But just a couple of housekeeping, not only mute your device, but if you haven't sent me your signed guidelines or to Pam or Margie, please do that so because you will not be able to present your business pitch unless we have those signed and initialized guidelines. That's our way of knowing that everything that we went over last week, you are aware of them so that there's no question at the end of the session. And Margie's really picky about that. She's a taskmaster on that. But thanks. I'm glad to see everybody still involved. I'm sure you're getting tired of seeing emails from me. You just get over it. That's all I got to say. But last week you should have had a ton of links with sample or actually business pitches from past competitions in different communities around Southwest Virginia. I highly recommend that you look at those and to help you get prepped for the last session in November so that you can pitch your business idea. Also, I sent a link to a Dropbox folder that had lots of templates, everything from business plans to cash flow analysis, tons of things that you can do, and you can start preparing before you go speaking to setting up an appointment with Margie Douglas and her team at the Small Business Development Center, because don't wait till the last minute. And you'll probably see that on all my emails is don't wait. I see after, I won't say how many years doing these, that's where people get into a bind where they wait till the last minute and then they're crushed for time. So I'm going to now turn it over to my co-host tonight, Lori Stacy with the Tazewell County Chamber of Commerce. Lori is pinch hitting for me because I am in Buchanan County, and we're actually announcing the winners of the Buchanan County Business Challenge that we held in the spring, but because of COVID, we couldn't announce them. So that's where I'm at. So, Lori, I will let you take it away, and you're in charge.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I was going to ask, though, I don't see Mr. Cook. I think he was supposed to be on tonight. Is he? I don't see him.
May have to send him he should have got an email from me an hour ago, a reminder.
Okay, well, maybe he'll jump on board here. Well, I truly appreciate being invited to be a part of this. And before we get started, I want to remind everybody that I'm new with the Chamber. Next month will just be my first year, and boy, has it been a year for to jump on board and go through this pandemic and all at the same time fight and learn my small businesses. It's been a challenge, and I think everybody will probably agree that the world is going to change from here on out. I don't think we can ever go back completely to the way that we were before. One of the big focuses that I've learned very quickly, and one of the ways that I will encourage you all as you continue to put your plans together and you think about the direction that you want your businesses to go in. Unless your business won't apply to this, but consider that e-commerce business style and start thinking about ways to protect yourself. And I hope and pray that there's never another shutdown, but always think of those extra ways that you can get those revenue sources, whether that's e-commerce, your online transactions. Just always have a plan. And that's actually one of the big focuses, at the Chamber with, of course, Margie's help and Sandy and Pam. We've kind of pitched together and tried to present to many of our businesses as possible who would, be able to be interested in different partnerships with even college students in order to help design your website and help just to make sure that there is that extra or a different revenue source coming into your business in the event that, you get shut down. And we hope and pray that never hope it happens again. But that I started in November of 2019 at the chamber, and my businesses were shut down in March. And so this has definitely been a whirlwind year for me. But at the same time, I feel like that I've grown already, and I have learned so much, and it's definitely given me an opportunity to get out and meet as many business owners as I possibly can. But to give you a little background about the chamber real fast, we love our members and we want our membership to grow, but our membership doesn't sustain us. So we do have lots of events planned for 2021. Of course, everything this past year has been shut down. And I hope that, as many of you all, start building your businesses, that maybe these are some of the events that, we can work together and bring to the community. We have Octobrew Fest, which is the first Saturday of October in Tazewell on Main Street. It's a huge event. Thousands of people come to Main Street. We just organized a golf tournament and a wine walk at Tazewell County Country Club, and that's going to happen on May the 15th. This is the first wine walk I think we've had ever in Tazewell County, so I'm very excited to be a part of that. But soon we're going to be able to, hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to be able to get back to our business over brunch, which is when we have a business, professional business owner come and speak. And, and that, of course, is just a few of the things outside of grand openings and ribbon cuttings that we like to do for our small businesses, not to mention just to provide resources and information, especially now with grant information and just the funds that are available, that our businesses won't have to be paid back. So it's been incredibly busy for those of us who have been working with small businesses. While a lot of people were struggling, the chamber did put together a community investment partnership, and we were able to raise about $30,000 to give out to our small businesses, and we're going to be dispersing that money real soon. And we were very happy to be able to do that, kind of provide our own grant program. One more thing I'll tell you about is our gift certificate program. So we got a grant for $5,000, and we were sold gift certificates for $50, but they were worth $100. And you were able to spend those in our small businesses in Tazewell County and Tazewell County only. And that infused $10,000 into Tazewell County small businesses. So just a little bit about what's been going on at the chamber. And I'm just so excited to be able to be here tonight and get to know each of you all. But I will introduce our professionals that are on our panel with us tonight. So I don't think Mr. Cook has jumped on board yet, but we have Mike Bandy. Of course, Mike is a CPA. Hello, sir. And we also have Misty Bandy, and Misty has years of experience in insurance, and we're so glad that she's on board too. So I guess if everybody's ready, then I think we can start firing away some questions for our professionals on our panel tonight.
Oh, wait, there's going to be questions?
You're not prepared. Did you not do your homework, sir?
Thank you, Lori. And Chamber's doing wonderful things, and we're really pleased with your leadership there, how things are going, and just keep up the good work. It's been a tough time. Businesses are starting to rebound a bit. And as the thing we're learning is that small business is important to small communities. Without taking care of each other, as far as small businesses are concerned, our communities wither and die. And so really appreciate y'all's efforts and pray for continued success for you guys.
Mike, I'm going to ask the first question. From the SBDC perspective, I have a lot of folks that come in and they really don't know what business entity that they want to establish. Mm-hmm. It always scares me a little bit when they say they want to be a sole proprietor because of the liability. Mm-hmm. So if you were a new startup business, or if a new startup business came to you and said, I really don't know what's the best business entity, what would you suggest?
Well, any good tax answer or good accounting answer is going to start with it depends. So it depends. Basically, and a lot of this is legal as well. So I don't want to step on Shay's toes with anything. I can tell you from a tax standpoint, Sole proprietor, if you are just an individual that says, I'm going to start a service business, a product-based business, things like that, sole proprietor is simply, I'm here. If you have employees, you have to get an employer ID number, but basically it's you, and that's it. So from that standpoint, a sole proprietor will show on a Schedule C on a Form 1040 that income or loss will affect the rest of your income or loss on your return. It's a lot easier to keep up with record keeping wise because it's basically just you. You're not having to worry a lot about the administrative stuff of filing your corporation with the State Corporation Commission. If it's an LLC, you're not having to worry about getting articles of organization with the Commonwealth of Virginia, things like that. But as far as taxability, it all comes to you. And even with corporations and LLCs, it's the same thing. But with the easiest one to start up, the easiest one to get going would be your Schedule C. Why, Margie, as you pointed out, and again, not to give attorney advice, but one of the issues with being a sole proprietor is where it is all you. It is all you. And so mechanisms in place, even with the sole proprietor, is to be an LLC, have that LLC coverage so that as a sole proprietor, you do have some corporate veil protection on that side. But even if you're not an LLC, my insurance person here would tell you to do what? Get an insurance policy.
Yeah.
And that insurance policy, while not a corporate veil, does give you a safety net underneath you to make sure that you're okay. So as the business gets bigger, from a tax standpoint, at that point, I would say, okay, let's look at being an S corporation. There's not a magic number on your gross income where it says, okay, this is where you should start being an S corporation. Normally, I tell my clients around $100,000, let's look at being an S corp. And here's why. With an S corporation, you only pay Social Security and Medicare tax on the wages that you pay yourself as an employer for you being an employee of the S corporation. So let's say that we have a net profit of $50,000. Under a sole proprietorship, a Schedule C, I want to pay federal, state, Social Security, and Medicare tax twice on the $50,000 in earnings. As an S corporation, I can say, all right, I'm going to pay myself a $30,000 salary. I pay Social Security and Medicare tax on the $30,000 only. The other $20,000 above that is treated as profit that I've earned as a shareholder of the business. So I can save taxes that way as an S corp on top of having protection as a corporation in the state of Virginia or whatever state that I'm in. So in a nutshell, you can start off as a sole proprietorship until things get a little bigger in volume and things become more complex. And then from a tax standpoint, I would suggest an S corporation.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That lengthy answer is, I'm glad y'all are all here. We've got to dismiss now.
Well, does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. Yes.
Go ahead.
And that may be kind of what you were explaining with the S corporation, but I mean, those numbers are way above what my numbers are. And so I know that I don't have but somebody asked me for a Schedule S, but what I don't understand, when I look through at my taxes, and I've had them done, by a CPA, I don't see my EIN number in there anywhere. And when I go through here, like a lady called me today and she wanted to know numbers specifically to my business. And I don't even know how to find that information in, because, it's a whole book of stuff, what you guys do.
Oh, well, we do what we do.
Where would I even look to find those numbers? And that's just one question. Do you think since there's no EIN number, he's not separating my business?
Well, are you a Schedule C or a sole proprietor?
You know what? I think that is what somebody asked me for, a Schedule C.
Aha.
And that was when I was looking at my 2018 taxes, and I didn't see a Schedule C. And honestly, we just finished this 2019 taxes. So I don't know if there's a Schedule C. Okay, I have a Schedule C.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, now let me ask you this. Do you have employees?
Well, I do, but it's like my housekeeper, and my maintenance man. So they're
Okay.
not, I mean, my housekeeper, like he didn't fit the regulations for part-time for the 2020 business challenge.
Right. But I guess what I'm looking at is it is possible that you don't have to show your EIN on your Schedule C if you don't have true employees that you're withholding taxes on.
Okay.
If you don't have actual employees that you're actually withholding taxes on, a lot of times your tax preparer will just use your Social Security number as your EIN identifier on your tax return. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that your EIN is inactive or ineffective. If someone asks you for your EIN, there should have been a letter from your SS4 that you filled out where you got your employer ID number. I have that. Yes, sir. Perfect. You can use you can use that. If someone asks you for your EIN, you can certainly use that because that number is associated with your business. You're A-okay there. But your social, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say your Social Security number, though, is also a viable employer ID number because you're a sole proprietor. Okay. Now, the Schedule C being there, this is interesting. Are you an LLC or?
I'm an LLC. Yes, sir. I'm an LLC.
Perfect. Now, see that's the better part of the two worlds there because you're a single member LLC. So on one hand, you do have the protection an LLC affords, but you also have the easy, I don't say easier, but the not as detailed route of reporting your business via Schedule C. A Schedule C is basically an income statement. Here's the money I brought in. Here's the money I paid out. Here's my net profit. And that transfers over to the main part of your tax return. So you've got the protection, but you also don't have to file separate returns like for corporations, partnerships, and so forth.
That's
so,
okay. All right.
You're good.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else with a question?
I've got another one. I'm going to ask a bunch. Okay. This is for Misty. Misty, what kinds of insurance should a business have? This is going to be a two-part question. And is there a recommended amount of insurance or a formula for how much insurance a business should carry?
Your insurance requirements are going to be based on what type of business that you are. I always recommend that first thing that you're going to get is going to be a general liability policy. Basically, that is your protection in case someone decides that they want to sue you or feel like that you're negligent in some way. So everyone basically needs a general liability policy. There's another section of a policy which will be your business property. So the general liability is basically negligence. If someone's going to claim negligence against you, that's going to protect you. There's also the business property part, which covers your business and its assets. If it's a building, if it's a vehicle, if you own a store and you have a cash register or you have display cabinets, all of that is going to be under your business property section. A business that has auto or has if you're not a mobile business who is you don't really have a physical brick and mortar store, you may not have to have a business property, but you may want to get what they call an inland marine, which is it's a policy that will cover tools, especially for contractors or if you're traveling. Will cover if you're doing sales. I know a lot of the retail stores are now doing some mobile pop-ups. If they've got a trailer or if they've got inventory that they're moving around or they take items with them, they may want to get an inland marine policy because that's not attached to a brick and mortar type store. You can package those together under what they call a business owner's policy. That's going to give you business property and also your general liability under one policy, and it actually gives you a discount if you do it that way. Okay. Some of the standard companies will also package into those business owners policies your workers' compensation. So in the state of Virginia, if you have 3 employees or more, you have to have workers' compensation. Your owners can opt out. They can be included or excluded for coverage if they choose to do that. But it is required if you have 3 employees or more. As far as the amount, it really depends on what your business is. What your exposure is, how much money are you making in the business? What type of protection do you need? You may have a trucking company that does a wrecker service. Depends on what type of wreckers, what type of vehicles they're towing. If they're towing just small vehicles, you know, cars that are valued at 50,000 or under, they don't have to carry such a large liability. But if they're pulling big trucks, which are, you know, $150,000 to $250,000 vehicles, then they're going to have more coverage. So it's not, you can't just say, oh, I want a policy and this is what I want. It's really, really important that you talk to your insurance agent and you discuss what are your risks, what are your liabilities, what are your exposures, what are you trying to cover? Now, the one thing I do want to say is don't just think that I got an insurance policy, I'm fine. That's not true. So insurance is to protect you, but it's not going to cover everything. People like to hear, well, I have an all risk policy. An all risk policy or comprehensive policy doesn't mean it covers all risk. What it covers is what is not excluded in the policy. So I know those policies come in and they're about this thick and the language is really hard to read, but it's very, very, very important that you read those policies. Every company will have different exclusions in their policies. They're standard things, but there may be one line in there that you need that coverage. And you need to know whether that's going to be covered, if it's not going to be covered. Policies now are tailor-made a lot. You can actually purchase the policy, but you can do additions onto the policy, so you can pick what you want to be included. I don't know if anybody knows anything about Richlands, the old McCain's and Mullins building that used to sell cars, had all the glass on the front of the building. That was separately insured. They had $30,000 worth of glass coverage because they were right on the road. What was the likelihood of a rock flying from the road and breaking that glass? And we did, as an insurance agent, have to pay that to replace that glass. So there's certain instances. Do you need that coverage if you're just in a one room brick and mortar and you've got one big window and it may cost you $1,500 to have it fixed? You may not need that coverage, but you have to look at your individual exposures and decide, this is the coverage that's important to me. This may be not so much. So there's not really a set that says, what type of coverage do you need? Do you need professional liability? Are you a profession that has that risk that you're giving people advice? Professional liability and E&O basically just covers what you should have done or what you didn't do. So, you know, what type of exposures do you have is the type of coverage that you're going to need. And you need to review those limits. Don't go and say, okay, I've got $500,000 limit. As your business grows, your insurance policy needs to grow too.
Thank you,
Missy,
Missy.
actually, sorry.
Lori, I'd like to ask the participants to please turn their audio on. I think that is only fair to everybody that's on. So please turn your audio on. Go ahead, Lori.
Oh, okay. So Misty, actually, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. So, you know, a lot of businesses, you know, they plan to, you know, host little events, you know, at their location. And a lot of times, you know, it can be maybe a big event to where they have to pull in some volunteers. So tell me a little bit about, you know, what about insurance as far as covering volunteers? Would that fall under your general liability policy? Or would you have to think about getting additional coverage?
When you actually sign and you do your paperwork for your policy, they will ask if you use volunteers. So that is something that will be addressed in the original application. Now, I know things are always changing. You know, if you're going to pull them in and you didn't realize that you were going to pull them in, it's always best to if you're going to plan that event and you know this is coming and you know you're going to have those large amount of volunteers, then you need to let your insurance agent know so they can at least document that in their files. It's not always something that it has to go from their files directly to the company. The agent represents the insurance company. So basically, when you notify your agent, you notify the company. Okay. So the agent is responsible for making sure that they've got all the documentation and do all the reporting that's necessary.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody else have a question?
Nobody has a question. Let's address the big one is business interruption with the pandemic.
Well, that would be useful.
That would be useful. Most policies in prior COVID standards did not cover loss of income from a pandemic. It is not something that was covered. Now, in the research that I have done, some of the states have went back and put laws into effect that they were going to make their insurance companies go back and make it retroactive to cover some of that loss of income, that business interruption. But typically your policy is not going to cover business interruption. Now, I'm not saying that that's not going to change anytime soon. Just like with 9/11, prior to 9/11, there was no coverage. Terrorism was not offered in your policy. It wasn't something that was specifically named in the policy, and because it wasn't specifically named or specifically excluded, there was no coverage. The government basically told all insurance companies, now you have to offer that coverage. When you take out an insurance policy, you have to sign either way. Either you are accepting the terrorism coverage and paying the premium, which is usually about $100 plus tax, or you're going to deny that. So I'm not saying pandemic coverage, I have a feeling within the insurance industry will become something that will be addressed through your coverages and your elected coverages. But right now, your policies are not going to cover pandemic coverage, which is not going to cover your loss of income because you had to shut down. Because if you were a business that was ordered to shut down, you have a better chance of recouping that, but that is per insurance company's discretion. So it's how much pressure they're getting from outside sources. So, but the only way to protect yourself from that pandemic and for that loss of income and for business interruption is to have a resiliency plan. So your resiliency plan is going to cover everything. It's going to cover your finances. It's going to cover what type of insurance do you have? You know, what are you going to do if this happens again? So please don't think that just because I got an insurance, hey, I got my insurance, I'm safe, I'm done. That's not true. Insurance is there, but there's other situations that are going to be excluded out of that insurance policy that you need to address.
And the thing is, but it's an all risk policy, right?
All risk does not mean all risk. All risk.
See, that's the thing. One of the first things when we started dating, and of course, you know, when you marry an insurance agent, well, you learn all about risk. And she took it with me anyway, and still here we are. But you hear all risk, and you think, well, everything's covered, everything's cool. And what I learned was that the policy covers everything except
for those exclusions that are specifically listed. And if it is not specifically addressed, it can also be excluded.
Yeah, so that's why reading the policy is just, again, I'm stepping on toes, but it's important, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you have to read, and you have to know what type of coverages and what risk you are specifically needing to cover. And you can tailor make your policies nowadays to whatever it is that you want to cover.
You two would make the best infomercial.
Phil Swift here.
Okay, well, while we absorb some of that information, Mike, actually, let's flip back to you because I do have a question for you.
Okay,
and I know, okay, putting my receipts in a shoebox, that is not what you want to see, right? Can you see me carrying in a box of receipts in a shoebox? That would be terrible.
I had a luscious head of hair till my first client brought them in a shoebox, and then it all fell out.
Okay, so let's discuss maybe some very basic steps as far as how to get ourselves in order and our small business in order. What are the first steps that you think that we should do as a small business when we're just getting started? Even if there's a software or an app that can assist us, what type of ideas do you have for that?
Okay, great question. First off, a quick story. My favorite one, years ago, I had a contractor that brought all of his receipts in a great big round ice cream bucket. True story. There are receipts in there from Belk. He's a contractor. Why are there receipts from Belk? Well, I thought it might be deductible. Well, nice try. But yes, it was in a great big round ice cream bucket. That was my favorite one. The key here, and again, accounting is the last thing you guys are worried about. And you're making money. You're out trying to get your businesses to go. And the last thing you want to do when you come in at the end of the day is to take a few minutes to put down, what did I make? What did I spend? I get it, man. I am down with that. The last thing I want to do is touch my own checkbook. right?
No,
Yes.
we don't let you.
We don't let me touch my checkbook, and that's okay. But if I could encourage you just to take a few minutes each day, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, whether it's QuickBooks, 95% of the businesses that we work with use QuickBooks in some form or fashion, whether it's online or desktop. And it's QuickBooks is one of those programs that can be as involved or as uninvolved as you want it to be. We mentioned the Excel spreadsheet. If you're not comfortable with Excel and you're not comfortable with QuickBooks and you don't want to hire somebody to do it just yet, organize it on a 4-column pad or on a notebook, and just break it down into expenses. Rather than say, okay, one thing that I see that if it's advice I'd like to give to our new guys coming in, they'll write down their checks and the date and the amount and who it was written to. And they're very meticulous and very detailed and very proud that they did that, and they should be. They kept that record. But man, if we could go one step further and put all of the supply checks in one column, put all of the advertising checks in one column, put all of the professional fees in one column, all the licenses in one column. Because at the end of the year, you can add those columns up, and now your categories of expenses are naturally taken care of. That, to anybody that's starting out, to me, it's a very simple accounting system, but man, it's effective. Because now when you bring it to me to do the return, my categories are already done. Etheloma has a Schedule C in front of her. She can talk about it's broken down between what I took in and here are the various expenses, whether it's advertising or supplies or rent or taxes or whatever it is. I take those categories that you've summarized and I put them on a tax return. So even if it's something as simple and fundamental as that, you're going a long way, not just to help me, but also to help you, because you can total those columns up at any time during the year and see how you're doing. So that's my biggest advice, is just go that one step further, make columns up and say, these are all of my advertising expenses, add them up. All of my supplies, add them up. All of my taxes, add them up. If you do that, you are miles ahead of just throwing receipts in an ice cream bucket or just writing your checks down.
And that also flows over into, if you do have a loss, an insurance claim in your business, then you've got receipts. You know exactly what was in your storage room because you purchased that. You've got your receipts, you know who you purchased it from, when you purchased it from. You can take that information, because when there is a claim, the insurance company is going to ask you to make a list of what you lost. You have proof because you've already documented that within your accounting system, with your receipts, with who it went to, when you purchased it. So that also helps you in that aspect too, when you have a claim.
Yep.
Hey, I have a question.
Go ahead.
We recently went from an LLC to an S corporation. Is there anything that we should be doing different as far as bookkeeping, or is it basically the same?
As far as bookkeeping, it is the same. From a mechanical standpoint, now that you're an S corporation, if you're making profit, you need to start considering paying yourself a salary of some sort. And that means actually withholding payroll taxes, treating yourself, Deb, as an employee of your own corporation. Whereas as an LLC, all of your profit just flowed through to your tax return and you paid tax on whatever the profit was. The reason why I'm harping on the salary, and please don't do it if we're just starting and we don't have the profit just yet to pay payroll taxes. But as you grow, as you get more and more profit into the business, you want to be aware that the IRS expects you to pay yourself a reasonable salary based on what you would pay somebody else to do the job that you're doing. Okay. And where they get that from, I kid you not, they actually go to salary.com. And they will type in that employee description, and they will find the salary range from low to high. And depending on the auditor that you get, they'll either go to the low, to the mid, to whatever. But the ones that I've seen will take the low range on that just to determine what a reasonable salary is. Okay. But if our business is in its infancy, if we're still within the first couple of years and we're still trying to build a war chest to survive, I don't know, another pandemic or something else that may pop up on us, don't worry about doing the salary yet. But as you work with your CPA, you just want to be aware and ask him, hey, should I start taking a salary at some point, just to protect yourself as far as taking a reasonable salary out?
And as
Okay,
far as
thank
on
you.
the insurance aspect of that, if you have went from an LLC to a corporation, make sure your insurance agency and the insurance company know that you have changed your entity, because that will affect, you want to make sure all of your paperwork is matching up with your registered name. Okay, because they can deny claims if the registered name, what you're operating under and what your EIN number is different. They can deny that. Just as if you have a general liability policy, when you get your general liability policy, they decide what class code you're going to be in. Your class code matches up with, are you a retailer? Are you a trucker? What are you doing? And those class codes can be broken down into separate categories. I had a hardware store who sold hardware. They sold tools, they sold lumber, they sold different things. They went in and they started doing installation for gas logs. That is a different class code. That class code had to be added to their policy to make sure that they were covered under the general liability, because it was a different scope of business. So make sure that if you're changing your scope of business, if you're adding something on, you're adding a different line or a different service, that your insurance policy knows that they know that, and that class code is showing on there, so that we can make sure that your coverage matches up with what you're actually, the duties that you're actually performing.
Okay, that's a good point. I'm not sure that that's been taken care of, but I will make sure that it is. Lori, I need to take a break if I can. I just got a booking for 3 guests and I need to get some stuff.
Yay!
I will let my husband, I will give it to my husband.
You go
and let him take it up.
make a bank, girl. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, actually, I have a chat question here. I'm going to read this for Blake Ray. Talking about risk and business structure, can you explain stacking liability? For example, if you own the building, why is it important to have a separate operating company, both from a tax standpoint and a liability standpoint?
Ooh, you want to go first? It's our neighbor. Hey, Blake, what's going on? The corned beef is amazing, by the way. I love the Cuban.
I love the Cuban.
Oh, the Cuban's good. Yes, go try it out. From a tax standpoint, okay. If I set up my business, I'll use mine for example. I have a tax practice, have an accounting practice. Okay, it's all one. But our building that we're in is in a separate entity. It's in an LLC, BCI, Bandy Capital Investments. Okay, we do that for liability reasons, and Shay would tell us, because we want to keep the building outside of the parameters of our operations, because if something happens in our operations and we do have a claim, we want it to put one barrier or one more step between us and our asset. Okay, so that if there is a claim against the practice, the building is in another entity and it's protected in that standpoint. From a tax standpoint, especially if you're a single member LLC and you're being taxed as a sole proprietor, you are going to pay yourself rent for the building that you're in. That rent comes out as an expense on your Schedule C, which cuts down your self-employment tax, and it goes over to your building, which is not taxed for self-employment. It's only taxed for federal and for state. So that is a way to move money over to an entity that pays less tax. So from that standpoint, having separate, third thing is too, you may decide to add on to your properties. So by having a separate business that is only holding real estate, maybe you see another deal in town. Hey, I want to buy that business. I want to rent that business to somebody else. So now you're renting to yourself, but you're also adding more real estate into that separate business. And again, keeps it separate from the service business or the operating business that you have already. Cool.
Most people do stack those policies because of the tax benefits. Okay. In insurance, it really doesn't make a big difference, because if you're operating in the business and someone else owns the building, you're required normally to put them as an additional insured on your insurance policy. Them being additional insured affords them your coverages, basically. So if I own the store, but Mike owns the building, he wants me to put him as additional insured on my policy. That way, his activities in that building are going to cover him also. Let's say someone comes in and they fall over. Let's say they fall up down the steps. Say the steps are wobbly, the handrail's wobbly, they fall down the steps. Most people are going to sue the business owner and the building owner. Okay, so that additional insured status basically affords him the building owner, that additional coverage. Now, I will tell you, you probably need to check in to see if you can get a business owner's policy, because those are built in with discounts, because you're covering your entire aspect. You're not just covering your personal property and your liability. Adding that building in, compare those two, whether you should keep them separate or whether you should put them together. That may save you a little bit of money, but I'm not so sure that it's going to save you what it's going to save you on the tax benefit side. So, but make sure that however that business is being run, if the building's under one specific name, the retail store or the other entity is under a different name, they have to have two separate policies. You cannot list them under one policy when they are operating as two separate entities.
Okay. All right.
All right, Deb's back. Did you get that booking?
Yes, sir. We, due to COVID, our storage of our linens and everything have changed. So we keep a lot of things here and we only take it up if we have a queen size bed and then a futon, and I don't leave the extra linens there because of COVID. So we have very stringent cleaning policies now through Airbnb. So
very much so. And that talks about the changes our businesses have gone through because of COVID-19, doesn't it?
Yes, I have to now clean in mask and gloves. That's required by Airbnb. I have to leave a cleaning kit for my guest, which includes hand sanitizers, gloves, and mask.
Yeah.
I have to leave wipes, Lysol, disinfectant, anything else that I can leave in there for them. So it has changed a little bit. It's not, honestly, not much different than what I did before because I'm a clean freak.
Yeah.
So I keep Clorox in business.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
This hasn't been that much different, but we have had a few changes. So, and our booking was late this evening, so they required the extra linens. So.
Okay. One of my favorite quotes, and boy, it applied during this pandemic. Rahm Emanuel, who used to be on President Clinton's cabinet. The kids I teach at the college are like, President who? I'm like, no, just trust me. But he said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And even though we have been through a crisis, it has actually made our businesses and our processes evolve faster than they would have had we not had this to begin with. As you said, even things, Deb, that you're doing, things you're already doing. Other businesses are having to, from a technological standpoint, I've done more Zoom meetings and team meetings over the past 9 months than I've ever done. But my practice in our profession is going that way. So going through this thing with COVID, I know it's been a pain in the neck, but it has made us evolve faster and made us more lean, more efficient, and more effective as far as businesses are concerned.
I agree.
Mike, I'd like to go back to something you were talking about, keeping records earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an inexpensive accounting software that you could recommend for a business, or I'm sure that there are a lot of them, but is there one that most accountants or folks that would need those financials be more likely to integrate with?
Well, I want to sound like a broken record, but it is QuickBooks, honestly. I mean, you can get the basic version for, I think, less than $200. You can get a trial version of the online for less than $10 a month, I think, isn't it?
I think so.
I think it's the trial version. QuickBooks Intuit has really saturated the market and has made it affordable to keep track of your business. Now, if you have payroll, there's a payroll subscription that you have to do every year. Excuse me. But QuickBooks honestly is the way to go. Here's the flexibility it has. It sounds like I'm an Intuit shill. I promise I'm not. But this is what I see with my clients that I have. I'm with the online QuickBooks, they actually have the ability to send me a permission link to where I can actually go on their books and check them out from wherever I am. It's completely cloud-based. As far as desktop is concerned, it is so easy to transfer records back and forth on a jump drive. And again, like I say, it's very inexpensive, and it can be as simple as it just keeps track of your checkbook to, if you get more involved with it, it can actually become a point of sale type of software for you. You'll see others like Peachtree, Cougar Mountain is an older one that was out there. They can be up in hundreds and thousands of dollars. But for what we need as a small business, and it's what I use. We use QuickBooks, and we've used it since 2001 when I got into business. And it's generates the reports that we need. The bank says we need an income statement. I've got it at my fingertips. If we need a cash flow statement to see how we're doing, I'm able to generate that. If we want a budget, we can do that as well. So it's a very powerful software tool, fairly inexpensive, and I think within our reach. There's a Quicken version, which is QuickBooks Lite. I'm not a big fan of it, just basically because it focuses on income and expenses, and that's it. It doesn't really translate that well into QuickBooks. So to me, I would spend the extra $50 to $100, get the QuickBooks, and roll with that.
I want to make a quick point about that too. Thanks to Brittany. She just chatted in and said that QuickBooks, just to remind everybody, also works very well with the e-commerce platforms, and it makes it very easy for you to keep up with those online sales in addition to like your brick and mortar establishment. So if that's an avenue that you'll eventually want to, especially with taking bookings, of course you're gonna find probably that this is simpler too, but QuickBooks is great for that as well. So thank you, Brittany.
Hi, Lori.
Yes.
Hi. This is Pam. I just wanted to throw something out there for these new business entrepreneurs. Speaking of COVID, we have a lot of grant opportunities and low interest loans that are available to businesses now, and we just went through a round of applications that we asked for documentation for expenses they incurred, and a lot of people just did not have the documentation to support some of the money that they were asking for. So I would encourage you to get some type of accounting system where you can just print that out, because like you all said, we don't know how long this is going to last, and there may be opportunities for businesses in the future for grants and that type of thing.
Well, Pam makes a very good point, and and I'll speak, coming from the chamber here and talking to some of my businesses as far as saying, hey, this grant money is available, and a lot of times because they didn't have their finances in order, it prevented them from getting help. So don't let that happen, because in some cases, it's thousands and thousands of dollars, and they simply, it was going to be a daunting task for them to be able to go back and try to pull together the information that the application was asking. But if it had been done correctly and been organized and you had help along the way, then it would have been very beneficial for some of the businesses, but they just simply did not have it together.
Well, it's like, how many of you guys have ever crammed for an exam the night before? That's exactly what it's like, isn't it, Lori? That's what it comes down to, because you're trying to get all this stuff done. You are under the gun, and it's just not going to happen. That's why I say just a little bit every day, a little bit of record keeping every day. It's going to pay off. It just will.
Let me put the insurance plug in there too. You've done all this record keeping. It's all on your computer. It's all out there. You need to have your insurance policies to make sure that you've got the electronic data loss on there, or coverage for security cyber breaches, because that's the world that we live in right now. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to possibly get back all that information that you lost, but especially if you're an e-commerce business, you're going to suffer some losses from being shut down because you've got that security breach, you've lost your data, and your insurance policy can help you recoup some of those expenses that you've got. There's probably a company out there that could go back and possibly go back and retrieve all of your information if it's on your computer and it was lost, or they could rebuild it, especially if it's going to be a cloud. Is pretty simple, but they're going to cost money. So make sure that you're looking, if you're relying heavily on digital data or online data, that your insurance policies are covering what you need.
I may be asking out of turn. How does that, and if I don't know, that's okay. But like a lot of stuff is on the cloud. We have our stuff on the cloud, and there's protection that we have on there with virus protection, so on and so forth, through our cloud-based business. But we've also got to have protection even getting to the internet. And so and again, it's the world we live in. But that data is, information is currency now. Information is gold, and you just be very careful about how you protect your data.
Hey, Mike, this is Blake. Can you hear me?
Hey, Blake, what's going on, brother?
I'm trying to figure out why my Zoom fritzed out. I can't see anybody, but Lori's got it, so you can hear me now, so that's good.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, so my next question, speaking of grants, and I'm glad Pam brought up that subject. So how are we treating that from an income standpoint? I mean, on the books, and then from a tax standpoint, when filing taxes next year, because I think that could be helpful for most everybody in this room.
Yeah. Well, businesses that got the PPP loan, for example, at first we had great amounts of hope, thinking that the PPP loan wasn't going to be taxable and we get to take the expenses as well. Alas, the IRS has become a buzzkill. And so even though we're not having, if the loan is forgiven, and whether it's forgiven or not, it's not income. But the money that you spent, the expenses that you paid with the loan, unfortunately, aren't deductible. So it's zero sum in this case. So if I got $10,000 in PPP loan money, for example, and I used it to pay $10,000 worth of payroll, I don't count the $10,000 for the income, but I don't get the $10,000 expense either, and so it zeroes out.
It's a wash.
Yep.
So, and is that a wash on the grants as well? So.
Basically, yes. From my knowledge, it is. Now, the loans you don't have, now that's different. If you got an auto loan or something through 7A or 7B2 on SBA, loan monies don't count as income, but you can still take those expenses, to my knowledge, because it's a loan that you're going to have to pay back. But if it's a loan that's being forgiven, like the PPP loan, yeah, it washes out.
Stay tuned, though. All that will change.
The joke during
and
tax
so
season,
like CARES Act grants, for example, that would be a wash as well, because it's not something you would have to pay back.
right? Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, when we were going through all this, when it all started in March, the Treasury Secretary apparently hated us because every Friday night at 10:30 p.m., another 30-page missive came out about what changed this week. It was great. Our Friday nights were great, weren't they?
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Talk to us a little
Blake?
bit about forgiveness, in case, some of our listeners here have received, we have to apply for that. That should, at this point, should that application be done and submitted, or are we behind the ball on that?
Oh, watch this. Go get him, Tiger.
It really depends on if it's under $50,000. They come out with the Easy app now. It's a S, I think it is. They call it Simple. We have an Easy app. This is a Simple app.
Yep.
If it's under $50,000, you can actually do a one-page app now. Basically, what it is you have to sign an initial that you attest that the information that you gave on your original application was correct, that you use the funds the way that they were supposed to be used, and that the information that you gave will match up with anything that you give to the IRS. So if it's under $50,000, you didn't lower any of your employees, you can use that app. The question right now is whether or not the banks are taking them. Yes. They're waiting. I think this is as close as we're going to get. The banking industry was waiting for the government to say $50,000, we just forgive it. This is as close as I feel like that we're going to get. This is going to be is going to be where they're going to draw the line there. So a lot of the banks did not set up the process to process those applications because they didn't want to set up a process, then have to go back and readjust it later. Our local banks are still kind of holding off on that. They're processing anything above 50,000. I'm assuming that within the last week or so, they've started processing those under 50,000. It just depends on, you can use what is called the next step up is going to be the Easy app. That's if you didn't lower any of your you didn't lower your full-time equivalent numbers, you were over $50,000, then you can use the Easy app. If you did end up lowering your full-time equivalent or you're over $2 million, you have to use the long form app.
And one strategy we're seeing that used to be, it was what you spent in 8 weeks, and then you had the opportunity to expand to 24. Even if you go to the 24, we're actually encouraging people to do that because that way we can have the forgiveness based entirely on payroll. Don't have to worry about mortgage interest. I don't have to worry about rent. I don't have to worry about utilities. If that payroll covers everything, that's a lot less record keeping. If I'm over 50,000, that's a lot less record keeping I've got to give to the bank, who then has to give to the SBA.
Right.
So if we can even by and also after that, you got up to 10 months after that to apply for your forgiveness. So it's like you said, are we behind the ball? No, we're in good shape at this point. If you're doing the app, I had mine ready since August, and I'm just waiting for the bank to say we're ready to take it. But if you haven't done it yet, it's not a big deal. What happens is as businessmen and as business people, we hate having debt hanging over our heads. And if we have the opportunity to have it forgiven as quickly as possible, we like to have that. This might be a moment where it might be good to be patient. That doesn't mean that we just sit around, don't do anything. It means we monitor our payroll. We see, okay, yep, we've got enough to cover at this point. Go ahead and fill your application out and have it ready. Nothing wrong with that, okay? But it doesn't mean you got to turn it in the very next day.
But you can only go for the 24 weeks. It's the 24 weeks or December 31st, whichever is earlier. Yes. So, but then after December 31st or your 24 weeks, you have 10 months to apply for that forgiveness. Now, during that 10 months, when you apply for forgiveness, the bank cannot, we took out these loans, everybody got the little payment stubs, the payment books from the bank that says in 6 months, you've got to start paying this. You technically by law they cannot charge you. They can't make you make installments, and they cannot charge you interest until they get a notice back from the SBA saying this is the unforgiven amount. They can start charging you interest if you did not apply for forgiveness within your 10-month period after your covered period.
Yep.
So those installment books, basically they're not really in effect. I got two, I don't know why, because I have until the SBA says this is the part that's not forgiven, then they can make you start making those installment payments.
Yep. And just as an aside, and not being disrespectful to anybody, but let's be real. A lot of the banks have conflicting information on how they're doing stuff. And we've run upon some banks that know and some banks that don't. Okay. And so if you're getting conflicting information, check with one of us. This is what we do. Check with the SBDC, check with your CPA, because the banks they were as taken back by this as we were. And some did their homework, some didn't. That's just being real.
And this is something they had never went through. So they went through either to build a process to do this. This was unprecedented. So, the banks and some banks were very careful in how they built those processes, and some of them kind of rushed into it. And now as the forgiveness comes through, because things have changed so much from the forgiveness from the beginning, the banks are being very cautious about how they approach those forgiveness applications.
So, Missy, you're saying you have to ask for forgiveness for those loans?
Yes.
They don't automatically.
No, you have to fill out the form. Okay. Yeah, you're going to have to fill out the form. If it's under 50,000, you didn't lower anything. It's a one-page form. You just attest because you've already given your bank that information. You gave them all your records when you applied. So you're telling the bank, yes, what I gave you is legit. I use this money for the correct purposes. Okay. So then you have to fill out, it's a one-page form. The easy form, basically, you do have to submit some additional paperwork with it. The longer form is basically for companies that are over $2 million or lower their full-time employees.
Now, there was a hope that if we were under $50,000, that it was going to be automatically forgiven.
I don't think we're going to get there.
That got scrapped when the latest stimulus didn't go through. That's where it was. It is resting in Congress, probably in peace by now, because we're not going to see it. And even if we were going to see it, we ain't going to see it for the next 13 days at least. Okay. And it'll probably be forgotten about by then. So yeah, it is a simple application that forgiveness will happen, but we do have to apply for it.
Get the application number.
Okay, I have a question. You said let me just ask this. I don't remember exactly how you said it. If you had a loan that has been forgiven, what you spent that for is not tax deductible. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
They won't let you double dip. You can't get the money to pay it and then take it off your taxes too.
Is it counted as income?
No, ma'am.
But you just don't get the expense.
Okay. So it's sort of like you said, it's 0-0. It zeroes itself out. It
does. Yes, ma'am. And the theory being, okay, we got the PPP loan because we lost income because of COVID-19. So we're not getting to count that. We don't have to count that as income, but the expenses that we spent that tax exempt income on, we don't get accounted either. So that's what I mean by zero sums out.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
form number for your PPP loan forgiveness is 3508. It's 3508, 3508EZ, and 3508S. S is the new one that just come out less than 2 weeks ago that says if you're under 50,000, you used all of your money correctly. That's the one that's the small one that it's a 1 page, and you can fill that out and turn that into your lender.
Yes.
Can we get that on the SBA website? That form?
We will put it on our Facebook page.
Okay.
We'll put a link there, and Brittany will do Facebook and Twitter and all those different things. So if you go to SBDC, SWCC, we'll make sure that it's posted there.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Can y'all imagine what it's like living in this house with an accountant and an insurance person in the same house? Our kids, they ain't home. They have other things to do. They don't want to
I
be here.
think you all need a cooking show now. Now I think you need a cooking show.
Hey, does anybody else have any questions out there?
Just don't undersell Misty because she is part of the SBDC team as well, Mike.
That's right. See, I didn't know if I could mention that, but now that I can, she does way more than I do. I just show up. I do what she tells me.
I know, she's the Energizer Bunny.
Yes, she really is.
So is Brittany.
So is Margie. She just needs a recharge right now. So.
Okay, let's see.
And Brittany just posted the link to 3508EZ as well. It just popped up. So I think that's in chat, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that link is there in chat, and take advantage of it and bookmark it. Brittany, look at you. Brittany killed a copperhead in her garage.
She's on the road today.
Y'all don't know how brave Brittany is.
It was just Mama Bear.
I'd like to make a
Mama Bear
comment about the SBDC, if I can, Margie and all of her crew there. For the new people that haven't been associated with them yet, you're talking about QuickBooks and software systems and things like that. Don't be intimidated by anything out there because they've got the resources to help you get through every single bit of it. And they've been a big help to me, and Misty came and helped work with QuickBooks, and we're still working on it. And if they don't know the answers, they'll find the answers for you. So they're a great resource if you're not already using them. So.
Thank you, Bill. I hope that means that you got some help with that other question. So,
tomorrow morning at 9:00. So.
Yes, hopefully we finally found the right person. So.
Thank you for those kind words, Bill.
Well, thank you for all that y'all have done.
Well, does anybody have any other questions? You're going to think of something later.
Just like they say at the old Baptist dinners, if you leave out of here full, it ain't our fault.
Empty.
If you leave empty, that's on you.
Well,
I do have a couple of questions, but I think they're more legal than either insurance or CPA.
Okay.
About piggybacking businesses and building and bringing buildings into compliance. So I'll get with some of the ladies, Margie and a couple of other ladies can direct me on where to get answers for those questions. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that Misty and Mike may know the answers to those questions.
Oh, no, not when it comes to legal. No.
We can give you an opinion. That's about it.
Way back early in my
That's right.
career, I tried to form a corporation for someone. That's totally a legal thing. And my attorney friend says, I promise you I won't do any tax returns if you'll stop putting corporations together. And I said, yes, I will do that. Now I got to do it to a chiropractor buddy of mine too, who kept trying to do his own tax stuff. And I told him, I said, Jim, here's the deal. I won't crack anybody's back if you'll stop calling the IRS. He stopped calling the IRS and we're okay.
So Lori, I would like to say that the SBDC is very happy to be a part of this business challenge. And we are happy to do whatever we can to help. This last couple of weeks have been very challenging. I'm sure most of you have heard about the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority Seed Capital Matching Fund grant. we are steeped in trying to review those. And hopefully we'll have those done in a couple of weeks. But please feel free to call us. Please go to the Virginia State website and register, because that's how we get credit. We do collect impact, whether it's job creation or capital investment, and that helps us meet our goals. So Brittany and Misty and I, and we also have another team member, Diane Altizer. So please feel free to reach out to any of us, because we're always happy to help when we can.
And I'm really excited that you are doing this process, especially if you're just starting, you haven't built your business plan. Your business plan and your financials are the basis of what you're going to have to give to any other funding organization, whether you're going to the bank, whether you're going to get a grant, whether you're going to the SBA. You get this part done, trust me. When you go and you hand that to them, and they're going to know that you know what you're doing, they're going to know you did your research, they're going to know that you are invested in this. It's going to make your life so much easier. So this is well worth it. And this plan travels with you, and it travels down the road. You're building a plan for at least 3 years, possibly 5 years. You've got the basis. It's a lot easier to go in there and adjust in 2 years when your business is doing wonderful, a lot better than you ever expected, than it is to start all over. So stick with it. Just work the process. We're here to help. I love the financial side. Send me stuff. I like to make the numbers work.
which is why we get along.
Margie, is this the Misty that you referred me to for my financials?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'll be contacting you.
Give me a call.
Thank you.
So guys, as you're building your business plan, there will be a section for financial projections or financial pro forma. Misty is awesome with this. She just does a wonderful job. So please do call us if you run into a snag, but please don't wait until the week of the pitch night or the week of the business plans being due. And I do have one more thing I want to say. I truly apologize for last week. I could not talk, and thank God for Brittany, because she stepped in and pinch hitted for me. So thank you all for being patient with me.
Margie, this is Pam. I would just like to add that all of our businesses that come to us, we always send them to Margie for updated business plans or whatever. Most of the time they don't have a business plan, but Margie and her team's always willing to help get one put together. And especially it's good for if a company wants to expand, or if you just want to add on to your business or something, and you're going back to the bank to ask for additional money for the expansion. Sometimes you'll need to get that updated, and Margie's really good, and her team's really good to help with updating the business plan as well. You can't get a loan if you go to a bank or anything and you need money. You cannot get a loan hardly unless you know them or something. You put up some type of collateral unless you have a business plan. So that's a very important piece of the puzzle.
One other important thing about the business plan is the marketing analysis. And Brittany, she is really good at helping people put together a marketing plan or a strategy. I think you'll be hearing from her week after next. So again, I've been so blessed this because of the CARES Act. We've been able to hire Brittany and Misty, and I'm just really blessed by God that that I've been able to have them on board, because I couldn't do enough to make up what all three of us or all four of us actually have done.
I'm so glad you have some more people now. I felt so bad every time I gave your phone number out.
But it didn't stop you, did it?
No, it didn't. I said, oh my gosh, Margie's going to kill me.
You got to catch you first.
But I kept calling.
But that's what we're here for. I think AIR team, and I know Mike, AIR concentration is we want to make Southwest Virginia small businesses grow and successful. And there's no business that's too small. I don't care if you're only making $5,000 a year. We're here for you. If you're making $1 million a year, we're here for you. So, I mean, it's about our community and about our region and about people taking care of people. It's about us taking care of people in our area, and that's what our heart is, and that's what we want to do. So please don't ever think it's a dumb question.
Nope.
Please don't ever think it's too small of a question or it's too big of a question. We'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you got this. You got this. That's the biggest thing I always want to say is don't give up. Don't give up. You had the vision. You made it this far. Just keep pushing.
All right, everybody. I guess
Missy, I was going to say that's great encouragement. I know they hear a lot of the negative sides of owning a business. I appreciate your kind words, and I just went through a similar thing with all of the applications that we received for grant funding. And I say this all the time. I don't know. You can't say that one business deserves it more than the other, because I think they're all deserving, and there's none that's more important than the other. So I had plenty of businesses say, well, there might be somebody out there that needs it more than I do, and I think every business is important.
Every last business and every business together.
Exactly.
That's the thing, because people look at Southwest Virginia and say it'll never thrive again, it'll never grow again. It's going to one business at a time, one of us at a time. Mm-hmm. Take care of each other and take care of our community. We're going to be all right.
I love that positivity.
We can do it. I feel like a Baptist minister. Are all hearts and minds clear?
Amen, Brother Mike.
Let's close this in prayer tonight.
You guys are going to get a little bit of a break. So, Lori, are you going to wrap us up?
I think so. I was just going to make sure everybody didn't have any kind of last minute comments, but I do want to encourage.
Lori, I do.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry I couldn't join in on the Hollywood Squares thing. I was having technical problems, so maybe I'll have it fixed next week. But I just wanted to thank Misty and Mike and Margie and Lori. Thank you so much for hosting this week. Sandy, I know she missed being on her soapbox tonight.
Yeah.
Don't tell her I said that. I'm sure she'll watch it and pay me back next week. But anyway, thank you all for everything that you do and to help us. And I think this has been a great program. Like I said to the newcomers last week, that we had a great year last year, and we still stay in touch with a lot of those people. So I think it's great. But anyway, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Okay, and guys, also too, if y'all ever need any help, you need any help finding resources, you all are more than welcome to call me at the chamber. And if I don't have that answer right there, I certainly know some incredible people in Tazewell County that'll put me in contact with whoever you need. And I'm more than willing to do that legwork for you. So I guess we will wrap it up. But thank you all for allowing me to host tonight and be a part of it. And it's good to see some faces. And I know, Renee, I need to come and see you. I was supposed to come and see you anyway. So it's nice to see your face. Okay, everybody. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. And looks like our next session will happen next Thursday, October 29th, beginning at 6. I hope everybody has a great week.
Thank you guys for having us. We sure appreciate it.
So much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.